Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine, blah, blah. And joining me on the panel is Tony DeCalf, Brian, and Derek Frisbee from DF Sports. And today I want to get right into the meat of the program because I kind of have a little list of things. I'm trying to keep my mind organized. As I get older, I forget more stuff, So I got to keep a little, at least some kind of a cheat sheet, not about what I'm saying, because everything's off the top of my head and it offends everybody, but just to keep the show kind of herded and in line. The first thing I wanted to do is to talk about the difference between the NFL and the NBA. And it's interesting because the two seasons, damn near merge into one another. And, well, they do actually, if you're going into the postseason. And the leagues, it's amazing the difference in the way that they promote themselves and market themselves. For example, the NFL, if you're not a very good franchise, we know all about this in Cleveland because, quite honestly, we've had problems, and then there are other organizations like the Detroit Lions and, the cast characters, the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and what happens is you're met with disdain from the press. Absolute, hateful, dreadful disdain. You become a laughingstock. Suddenly CBS puts up a goddamn, animated image of your team as being systemic losers. And people say bad things about the players who play for you. And if any player catches more than 3 passes in a game who was once a Cleveland Brown, it's because he's out of Cleveland. And it's an amazing thing to behold around the league, just the sheer negativity. That's all there is on your cable networks, your satellite networks, your major networks, your podcasts. It's ridicule. So when you're not a very good organization, you're subjected to ridicule in the NFL. And that's the way it works. So you get talked about a lot. But the problem is none of it is constructive and none of it is really relevant. But it garners ratings because it irritates those fans like Detroit Lions fans. All you have to do to a Lions fan is say, morning Wick, he didn't take the ball. And they'll kill you.
Or Wayne Fonts.
Oh yeah, they'll fucking kill you. Or haven't had a decent quarterback since. Well, now they can say Stafford, but he wasn't very good. But when he was with Detroit. But since Landry, I don't mean Tom. I mean you'd have to go back to. But they get furious with you, and it's that way. Browns is Browns. That's the thing they'll throw at us. And the New York Jets, God only knows, it's Darnold now. I mean. That's you chose Sam Darnold. Oh, so New York Giants, that would be another one. And they made Gettleman quit finally, and the fans go, "Yes, there's something good about being totally yelled at all the time and be ridiculed." I think Gettleman got to the point where it's like, I have a family and somebody might get killed, and it might be me. I'm out of here. Now, the NBA is completely different. They're both successful leagues. The NBA is all about premier name players. It's all about LeBron James, still. It's all about Giannis. It's all, oh God, the Brooklyn Nets, for God's sake. It's all about Durant and Kyrie Irving, who only plays sometimes, and Harden, who is so old he can't get a hard on. I don't know. He's lost a step, man. I don't mean to ridicule. Yes, I do. He's lost a step. And He doesn't look like he's got that zip in him that he's had in the old days. But at any rate, it's about big names and promoting those big names, and it's all part of the marketing of both sports. But the thing that's interesting, the NFL openly will ridicule its own franchises and piss on them in like 20 different ways. But the NBA has a unique way of dealing with teams like the Sacramento Kings or the Cavaliers without LeBron or
For decades, the Clippers.
yep. And, but look at who we haven't heard from in the NBA lately. I mean, the Houston Rockets, it's like, no. I mean, they're horrible. The Detroit Pistons, they're the big duo with the Lions. The city of Detroit is no place to be. And Tigers fans were like, we still have Miguel Cabrera. It's just terrible shit.
Fuck, even the Red Wings stink.
Yeah, I know. I mean, but in basketball, the number one pick, they got Cade Cunningham, and still, I mean, they're at the bottom. I mean, nothing. There's not even a bright glimmer of hope. You would think that there would be some hope that the NBA in their marketing efforts would try to talk about the Cade Cunninghams and the up-and-comers, but no. He plays on such a bad fucking team. You know what the NBA does to bad teams? They shun them. Just like a goddamn recovering Mormon. They shun you. They don't say anything about you. You can go to NBA TV and catch any of their programming, and it's not like you'll never hear a segment open up with, hey, let's take a look at what's happening in Sacramento. I mean, there's some goddamn migrant workers picking shit out of trees there, but sure as fuck, nothing in basketball. Who talks about Oklahoma City since Durant left? But I mean, really, what's there to talk about, right?
And
they
since
shun
Chris Paul
you.
left.
Huh?
I said, and since Chris Paul now left.
Yeah, you're shunned. And there's so many that are being shunned, and that you get the impression there are only a few real, actual NBA teams, and the rest are for lack of a better expression, the Washington Generals, if you're a Harlem Globetrotter fan.
Cannon fodder.
Cannon fodder. That's absolutely right. They even have, one of the great stats the NBA has is, this is their record against the real teams, and this is their record against the rest of the league. It's like, oh, how does that play out? Really shitty stuff in the NBA, because you might as well be in Siberia, Sacramento, Siberia, and the other thing that's amazing is, here it is, almost all-star break. We found out, oh, surprise, surprise, who the all-stars are. And
I mean, the one kind of Andrew fucking Wiggins. What?
Well, I mean, look, automatically, if you were Steph Curry, you get a blowjob, okay? Or at least a hand job. I mean, there were some lousy players. I mean, when JaVale McGee was there, he actually got hand jobs. Because, I mean, I don't, the thing that's amazing, and it's not that I really care one way or the other about the goddamn All-Star game, but I'll say this. How is it possible that there wasn't one starter for the Phoenix Suns? How is that possible?
Well,
And they have the best record in the league.
That's what I'm saying. How is it possible? Because you do not reward shunned markets.
yeah.
And here's the trick. They take a look at a guy like Booker and they say, wait till we market him when he's done in Phoenix and ready to sign up with one of the real teams.
Yeah.
That's how they work. And that's why shunned organizations remain shunned organizations.
It's
So
kind
let
of like
me ask you this. How is it possible that nobody's talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers? having watched them decimate the Milwaukee Bucks. Not a shorthanded, COVID-addled, oh my God, we're sick. Oh my God, we got injuries. It's the Cavaliers who had the injuries. They've lost 2 guys for the season, and they didn't even have another one of their guys, Lowry Markkanen. He's going to be gone for a while. So without guys who were really 3 important pieces on that team, the Cleveland Cavaliers came out and kicked their fucking ass all over the court. And make no mistake about it, the big-time Bucks, NBA champions, you can still see that little tear falling down Budenholzer's face when it's always there. He won last year. Budenholzer got the monkey off his back. The crowned NBA champions. So you know what they did? They came out, and they were just like Mike Tyson. I'll do Mike Tyson before the match. I'm going to find out exactly where your mother and your children live. I'm going to rape them, and I'm going to beat them and pummel them into the ground. I know where you're from. And people would get scared to death. And by the time they got into the ring with Mike Tyson, they were so frightened that they were statues, and Tyson would go in and just rip them to shreds.
Mind games.
Yeah, I mean, they were beaten before they got into the ring. Now, you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they strut on in and they said, yeah, we're 18-3. The last 21 games that we had, Giannis on the court, Middleton on the court, and Drew Holiday. That's our big 3. And then we're 18-3 with those guys in our last 21 that they've played together. And they came out and they landed a haymaker. They made 75% of their shots in the first quarter, 6 of 7 from 3, and had a 35-26 lead. And it was like, oh shit, we've hit them on the wrong day. And then all of a sudden, the Cavaliers righted the ship and pulled even. And by the half, the Cavaliers were ahead 65-57. And then it's like, oh, they're going to really flex their muscle, though. They're the NBA champs. They're going to come out in the third quarter. The Cavaliers beat the living shit out of them. Dean Wade. Not D Wade, folks. Dean Wade.
Great value, D Wade.
Of Jan and Dean fame.
Dead Man's Curve.
Won't come back from Dead Man's Curve. Yeah.
Well,
And that's
he
not to
did.
denigrate Dean Wade, mind you. I don't mean to denigrate him. I'm just saying that
And Dean actually did, sort of, mostly.
Yeah, and that's true. He never got back from Dead Man's Curve. That's a sick one when you think about it. Here's the deal. So we have Rondo, who's 74 years old, and he comes in to spell Darius Garland, and Darius Garland hurt his back during the game and only played 26 minutes. And even with 26 minutes, they couldn't do shit. You know, I'm looking at Giannis, and I'm saying to myself, so this is the name that the NBA wants to pimp. And he scored 26 points. Oh, isn't Giannis great? He scored 26. And it's like, well, 10 of them came from the free throw line. Hello.
Well,
He
he
got
take
to-
like 30 shots.
No, he got to the
It
point
sure
in the
as hell
game.
seemed like it.
No, he got to the point in the game where he just put his head down and started driving down the lane, and he just kept falling into a sea of arms, which were Mobley, who's like octopus, and Jared Allen, the fro, consumed him.
Yeah.
And he literally, you know, he's given up any thought of taking a mid-range jump shot or a three-point shot. Not going to happen because Giannis never learned how to. And as you want to pimp that name, do it. That's well and good. He's got a championship under his belt. But I've watched basketball a long time. And, you know, he's had an advantage because he's like a 6'11" point guard, right? And he can do a lot of things and get around people. And he never worked on the mechanics of his shot.
Isn't it
And-
incredible though how well Mobley and Allen work together? It's like they are a perfect pairing, just all around.
Yeah, well, it's funny is when Jared Allen was ill the game before, man. To tell you the truth, Mobley looked kind of lost out there. It was like the Twin Towers was one tower, and it just wasn't as impressive. But the funny thing about Mobley is, you look at the end of the game, and he's always right there at 16-8. You're going, I mean, wait till he starts figuring out what it is he can and can't do, and once he gets stronger.
He's going to be an MVP someday. He's going to give the NBA no choice but to give him that MVP. Because like you said, once he really figures everything out even more and finds that strength, it's just like that highlight play. I mean, just him attacking the basket, that pass from Garland, and then just that perfect slam right over Giannis. Like, once he gets that down, yeah.
And you had to dig deep on the page to get that video. That should have been all over. MVP gets wasted by barely 20-year-old Rook, But no. We don't talk about the shunned market. And we're not convinced that these guys are really that good anyway, and we're not going to waste our time with it because we're too busy talking about LeBron. I love LeBron James. You know that. But, enough is enough. I mean, who really gives a shit? Anthony Davis, if he can't play, the Lakers were losing with LeBron. LeBron used to be able to make anybody win with him, but he can't anymore. He's 37 years old, for God's sakes. Move on with your marketing. You've got the guys. There's a whole, Ja Morant, what a great player he is.
Anthony Edwards, solid young fucking player.
Yeah, I mean, there are
Garland.
I was just gonna say really Garland is fantastic.
Up and coming. The only question is whether he has the physical strength to make it through a season and into the playoffs, because his back is really ailing him. And, he only played 5 games at Vanderbilt when he was there. And the Cavaliers really weren't playing very hard during his first couple of years in Cleveland because they weren't in any games. So there was nothing happening that was important while he was on the court. But
the league doesn't have to shun away from promoting, Devin Booker and Giannis and
no, it doesn't.
Luka and Trae Young. They're still young. It's just LeBron is aging. He's gone.
That's it. They have to replace. And if the best they can do is Trae Young, then I'm just going to put my finger in my throat because he's, look, I've already seen Steph Curry. All right. And Steph Curry did it in important games, and Trae Young is never going to get to an important game. Not really at the point. I know they were a surprise last year, but they were horrible this year, and they're trying to retool their roster around him.
There are just so many options. There's fucking Jokic in Denver, and there's fucking, Zach LaVine, and fucking,
And DeMar DeRozan starting, to tell you the truth, I watched DeMar DeRozan fall apart year after year for the Raptors because they played us when LeBron was here.
Yeah.
And DeRozan would fall apart in the clutch. I know, he's an all-star. He's having a great year. Good for him. I wouldn't want him. People in Toronto can tell you all about him. I don't know. But the difference in the leagues is fascinating to me. Because the shunning aspect, they don't think they can make any money off teams like the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. I about peed my pants. I'm convinced. In Russia, if you do something to piss Putin off, you end up where? In Siberia. In the NBA, Sacramento. Yeah. And if you didn't see the latest headline, this should be another one of those moments.
Oh.
Sacramento Kings pull out of pursuit for 76ers Ben Simmons. It's like, we don't even want him. They figured, at least he's a name, we can get him here to Sacramento. And it's like, no, that's not even going to happen. Ben Simmons is going to disappear into the woodwork. That whole bullshit process thing. And Tony...
Yeah.
I remember Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and Ricky Rubio, right?
Yep, last year. Or no, not last year. Two or 3 years.
But I remember that was the young up-and-coming team.
Yeah.
You don't hear shit about Karl Anthony Towns anymore, do you?
No, because
Shunned.
all the attention has turned to one Anthony Edwards.
And is Karl Anthony Towns still a good player?
No, he's putting up 27 and 15.
But you never hear his name anymore.
No. The Wolves are, if the playoffs started today, the Wolves would be in the fucking playoffs. They're above 500.
Now, what's funny is when Love was there and putting up those same numbers,
Yeah.
that's all you fucking heard about was Kevin Love.
Minneapolis is Siberia.
Yeah, it's Sacramento and it's Cleveland and it's like so many other places.
I feel like
The Cavs are 2 games out of first place in the East?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there are 49 games into the season, and they're not lucky. Now, they have a lot of very young people, and whether their bodies could hold up, I don't know. But this ain't luck.
Yeah, I feel like the best thing about the Cavs is even though we are a market that's not exactly who they want to be one of the better teams, I feel like they have no choice. Like this team is here to make noise, and that's what we've seen this season. Like you said, if they can stay healthy, I mean, they're good to go for the most part. Even though it's a super young team, but they got like I said with Allen and Mobley, it's like they have these guys that just fit. Like everything seems to just fit. So I think if you can continue this and keep going, I don't think the NBA has a choice. I think the Cavs are going to make a lot of noise.
Teams have made an adjustment already, and it kind of threw Cleveland for a loop because they started doubling on Garland out front. When he comes over the midcourt line, they would run 2 men at him to get the ball out of his hands to take the pacing and the tempo out of the passing game of the Cavs sharing the ball with one another. And for a while, it started working. Fortunately, the Cavs defense is very good, but the Cavs have figured it out. Teams are now running 2 men at Garland, and Garland just flips it off to Okoro, or they throw it. They bring Mobley out to the top of the key, and he can throw passes down low to Jared Allen. They can go inside. Allen can kick it back out, open threes, or the ball starts moving all around for an open three. That's how Jetty Osman gets his looks. They're not lucky. What will happen with this team is what we've seen happen a million times before. Mm-hmm. The Cavaliers have the ability to run a non-stop motion offense. They have young legs and players like Jetty Osman, who are kind of a Ritalin child. They never stop moving. Even Dylan Windler's the same way. They never stop running and moving. So that ability to keep moving and keep the ball hopping, or as they say, ball's got energy, increases your shooting percentage. But if people are holding you, you can't do it. And that's what will happen in the playoffs. They say, well, it gets tougher in the playoffs. We let them play defense more. And then it's a bunch of bullshit. What it is was, if you remember, Bruce Bowen literally hanging on LeBron James' jersey all the way back the first time. What was it, in 06 that the Cavaliers made it to the playoffs?
Yeah, 06, 07.
Yeah, and of course they didn't have a chance against San Antonio anyway, but that great player, Bruce Bowen, he was literally grabbing his jersey, and it was bullshit. That's what will happen. That's how the NBA handles things. It's like things get tougher in the playoffs. They get tougher for teams that they want out of the way.
Or they let somebody be a goon and
Yes.
knock them straight through the scoring table.
And look the other way and say, hey, look, it's more physical in the playoffs. But I'll tell you something. The Cavaliers out-physicaled the Bucks, out-hustled the Bucks. They made them look old and slow. And that great defensive player, Drew Holiday, was Garland, because the first time they played, he beat up on Darius. 4 points in the whole fucking game for Drew Holiday. The Cavaliers defense said, okay, if you're going to beat us, first of all, Giannis has to beat us at the free throw line. Second of all, we're not going to guard Bobby Portis and let Bobby Portis beat us. And Middleton's going to get his 21 no matter what happens. Do you know that game? It was like 55-10, the Cavs bench scoring against the Bucks.
Wow.
I mean, that's what it amounts to. The Bucks were thwarted and beaten, but you're not going to hear that anywhere because we're shunning the Cavaliers. So,
Hey, we have not to change the subject, but we have
Sure.
some news out of the NFL. The Giants have made a head coaching hire. They're hiring Brian Daboll, Bills offensive coordinator.
Brian Daboll?
Yep. Hired to the Giants.
Wait a minute.
Just came
Get-
down 2 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. We'll do. Wait a sec. I got to do my musical thing. Here we go. God, it looks like Dayball must be the shit in my eyes. All right. God almighty. That guy's retarded. I'm sorry. He was a disaster in Cleveland, an unmitigated disaster. The Giants
he was
just keep the
he's
hits coming.
But he's the miracle worker in Buffalo with what he has done with Josh Allen. So,
I mean, you're always one step away from getting a gig, especially if you're white. I mean, you're telling me that the goddamn Giants, and you know what the thing that's great about the Giants, did you hear what they said prior to hiring Dayball? You'd be
said they
interested in
haven't-
this, Derek.
They haven't helped Daniel Jones at all. That's what I heard.
That's right. And they're saying,
the owner said that.
Yeah,
yes, and he said,
Mara
we're sticking
said
with
that.
We're sticking with Davy Jones of the Monkees, and we're going to build an offense that shows off his strengths. And I'm like, what strengths are you referring to?
Better
So-
have an offensive line first.
And so Dayball, for all of what he's doing with Josh Allen, he's not getting Josh Allen where he's going.
No.
I mean, Daniel Jones doesn't have anywhere near the arm strength, of course, nobody does, of Josh Allen. Guy's got a fucking cannon. And the receivers, the front line, offensive line, it just ain't there. And Saquon Barkley's never really come back.
Now they're gonna pick
But
a tackle, but that ain't gonna fix everything.
Well, and the other thing is, Daboll custom tailored an offense for
Josh
Allen, and that's what they want him to do for Daniel Jones. So
That means that he has to have more than one idea. At any rate,
That'll be
it all
RPO.
makes sense. I guess it all makes sense in the great scheme of things. I have that on my list. What I was going to go to next was, why were the Browns sub-mediocre and the Bengals successful? This is the last of my comparisons, because a lot of people, I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of Browns fans are saying, I'm going to cheer for the Bengals. And it's like, if you cheer for the Bengals, go ahead. I mean, I'd like to see an upset there, because you know me, I love March Madness, but when the small school wins, gets a fair shake, and I want the Bengals to go out there and do well. It's been a long, hard road, 10-7, and more than their share of difficulties during the course of the season. I started looking up the seasons of 2020 and 2021. And if you look at the Bengals in 2020, I'm going to count the games. One. All right, and I'm going to tell you who. The Chargers game in 2020, the Browns, this is all 2020. These are all losses, by the way. The Colts, the Browns again. I'm skipping everything. The Giants, the Dolphins. These games were close games, because that's all Zach Taylor can do. He'll coach you into close games. And we'll look at the Browns in just a minute. You'll find the same thing is true. and they had a tie 23-23 against the Eagles. So they lost to the Chargers 16-13, lost to the Browns 35-30. Then the next one was losing to the Colts 31-27, and they lost to the Browns 37-34. I mean, they lost to the Giants 19-17. That's not pretty stuff. They could have won some of those. They didn't have to be whatever the fuck they were record-wise, which I have here somewhere. But if you take a look at the strength of schedule for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2020, they had the toughest one of the teams in our division. All right. 2020 was a good year for the Cleveland Browns because their opponents sucked. A 461. And the Bengals only a 470. Okay. I mean, so the Bengals, the Browns were playing lousy teams. But of course, the Ravens, 40.438. I mean,
Hey, you cut out. What was that last number for the Browns?
I'm sorry if I cut out. I didn't mean to do that. The Browns number was 0.461. That easier way of looking at it. Their opponents were 118 and 138, and the Ravens were 112 and 144. They're all playing a bunch of losing fucking teams. All right. And this is why I say there's no clear cut in the AFC North. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers opponents that year were 117 and 139, and the Browns opponents were 118 and 138. So every one of the teams played shit. Okay. They played an easy schedule. And in the case of the Bengals, they could have had a better record than they did, but they were played into close games. And you look at it again going into 2021. And the Bengals, their opponents were 144 and 128. And that is like tied for sixth, toughest schedule. But if you start looking at the scores of the games, damned if they weren't real close again. It could have flip-flopped any number of ways for the Bengals. They ended up 10-7. They could have ended up 12-5, but they also could have ended up 8-9 like the Browns. You know, and the Browns, 140, 130 and 2. That was the record of the Browns opponents.
Well,
a .518.
His ACL this year.
Huh?
I said also Burrow last year had the ACL. I don't remember what point in the season that was, but
right. I mean, but what I'm pointing out is it isn't that it's mediocre and the other teams are really great. It's a matter of from one season to the next, close wins that can go one way or the other totally change the complexion. They were only 10-7, folks. Let's not get overly excited. And there was a point where when they started out really well and then they mid-season hit a plunge, the people were saying, well, the Bengals are going to fall out of this completely. And it was by the grace of a fine young quarterback and a really good receiver that they were able, and Mixon's health, that they were able to put together a really good concluding stretch to the season. But again, if you look at all the statistics and everything that, you know, and again, I'm just looking at the opponents. I mean, the Bengals in 2020 lost to the Washington football team. All right. That didn't happen this year. That's for damn sure. So
a couple of days they got their new branding coming out.
Yeah, I mean, and I want the Bengals to do well to represent.
You were talking about the Washington game. I think that was the game that Burrow destroyed his knee.
Yep.
So
but if you don't have a backup,
really.
I think Case Keenum could have beaten the Washington football team, but again, if you look at, I had scores up here and I'm not finding them. But the Bengals barely, I mean, 15-10, they beat the Broncos. I mean, there were a lot of games like that.
That sounds like the Browns score.
Yeah, with Case Keenum, that's exactly right. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that as fine a quarterback as Joe Burrow is, they still got a lot of holes to fill on that team. And it may be a miracle story, but they go in as underdogs in this weekend. I don't think anybody would doubt that. So, the comparison between the Browns and the Bengals is the Bengals and the Browns reversed roles. And it could reverse again next year. What?
Hey, did you see the? Go ahead.
Dactar put in there Washington Commodores. So I said, so Brick House is going to be the new fight song?
I heard Admirals.
So what were you going to say? I'm sorry, Derek.
What was I gonna? Oh, about the Steelers. Did you hear? Apparently they're good with Mason and Haskins competing. I'm happy for
Well, they
Haskins
say
that he gets
that.
a chance, but
Well, they better start tanking. They got to get a high pick. They got to get a high pick. to get a
They're going to
quarterback.
try and go after C.J. Stroud.
God help
In
us if
23.
they get CJ.
Yeah, but I mean that would make sense. We were talking about the head coaches, and thanks, Derek, for the word up on Brian Daboll. But it's incredible. You look at who's been fired. All right, David Culley with the Texans fired him, and I know that our friend, our Texans fan in the in the chat room is probably delirious, but they haven't hired anybody yet. Joe Judge was fired, and we already know what happened there. They got Judge Judy.
If the Jacksonville Jaguars do not hire Eric Bieniemy, they're making a big mistake because right now they got a young quarterback with a lot of talent. You haven't seen it really yet, but they need a young offensive mind to come in and just get the strengths out of it.
Well,
They can't do a Chicago Bears and go out and hire a DC. They just can't.
Well,
But this is
Jacksonville's
it.
hiring Leftwich, from what I
Yeah,
heard.
I got a feeling they're going to go after Leftwich.
The problem with Bieniemy is he doesn't want a head coaching job because he knows, and this is my firm belief, is that he's been told, okay, Reed's only going to coach a couple more years. You're getting the job once he's gone. And why the fuck would he leave Kansas City if that's the case?
Well, because by the time all that happens, things will be different because nothing stands still in the world. Brian Flores was fired with an over 500 career record with the goddamn Dolphins. And there's no. I'm sorry?
I said over Deshaun Watson. They couldn't get over their differences between head coach and front office about Tua and Deshaun. So instead of trying to work things out, they just went and fired him. Stupid.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tua was a thorn in Brian Flores' side, and a number of players now have come out for the Dolphins, and they're not saying real great things about Tua either. So it looks like to me every time the young man's playing, he's trying to improvise without the requisite skills to improvise in a big league like the NFL.
Well,
At any rate, Mike Zimmer, we're waiting, right, Tony, with bated breath.
Get the fuck out. Don't come back.
And Justin Fields must feel like he's been relinquished to Sacramento. You fire Matt Nagy and you bring in Matt, is it Eberflus?
Yeah, Eberflus, yeah.
I mean, what do they need defense for in Chicago? They already have defense. What are they thinking? But, so
Living
all
in
of
the
these
past,
things,
that's what it is.
and Vic Fangio is let go, and Nathaniel Hackett, who's at least an offensive coordinator, all right?
They're trying to get Aaron.
Yeah, they're trying to get Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
I heard they
And-
might get Flores to be the DC. Sorry to cut you off, but I heard that was a possibility.
Yeah,
Or not Flores,
it-
I'm sorry, Zimmer.
Oof. Have fun with that.
Yeah, but the Raiders haven't recovered from the whole John Gruden spectacle that the NFL helps manufacture. And then you have, the Jaguars, and it's. Did you hear that Ricardo Montalban came out and said that the owner can't call himself Khan because that character always won more than he lost? Just something that I thought I would add. The Jaguars haven't hired anyone yet, and Leftwich is being talked to. They talked to Peterson, Todd Bowles, Jim Caldwell, Byron Leftwich, and the Kellen Moore.
The corpse of Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, exactly. The
At least
spirit
Buried in a Chrysler Cordoba.
with fine Corinthian leather. Absolutely. So, which brings me to my question, and Derek beat me to the punch, which is nothing new because I'm really slow these days. Why doesn't Eric Bieniemy have a head coaching job by now? And Tony's expressed his opinion.
It doesn't make sense to me because, I mean, to me, it's all about innovation. You got to keep progressing and moving forward and adapting to the NFL and where it's going. Unless, Tony, you must be right, because it doesn't make sense to me why these teams who go out and get a young quarterback with a lot of promise, why wouldn't you bring in somebody who, even though he's not from college,
Yeah.
obviously he's been with the Chiefs, but to me, he has more of a college mindset as far as different style of offense. It doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't go get that guy and say, hey, you're our head coach, but we want you to get everything you can out of Trevor Lawrence, out of Justin Fields, somebody like that. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it has to, because I mean, it's.
Well, I can tell you,
you're not leaving Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek, and that lot.
Well, wait a minute. The thing that's interesting is what's being written on regular blog sites and all over the internet. I mean, really strange things. Like, for example,
Amsterdam.
I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the chat right now, so I don't know what you're talking about. I don't.
Moose still has a 1984 LeBaron.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody thinks he's funny because I never, I don't know. It just stopped being funny a long time ago. Why hasn't he received his shot? One popular theory is that he interviews poorly. Now, wait a minute here. I mean, what does he do in an interview? Did he so every team who's
Urinate
passed
on the
on
desk
him,
or something?
I don't know.
Hello,
Excuse
my
me,
name-
I have to pee.
My name's Eric Bieniemy. I've been the offensive coordinator for one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback, and I have Super Bowls. What else do you need?
Yeah, but you see, again, if he were a white guy, it would fly. But you see, the problem here is that Bieniemy does not call the plays in Kansas City. Andy Reid is not going to give that up. And so a lot of people feel it's all Andy Reid and it's not Bieniemy. All right? That is why some teams have said ixnay. But this is the ultimate. Speculation that Bieniemy is more of a yes man to Andy Reid. Yes'm, Mr. Reid. See, I'm reading between the lines. He interviews poorly. I wants to be your head coach. This is all bullshit. This is all black stuff, man. And it's like, there's one black coach left in the NFL. That's it. One. The other one got fired. And it's impossible that this guy doesn't have a head coaching job. Even if he doesn't turn out to be a good head coach, he has better credentials than people who are leapfrogging him who are white. And this has been the case for the last couple of years. And he himself, and then they're bringing up, that he had some problems with legal problems, law problems back in 1993 when he was with the Chargers as a running back. And then he got a DUI in 2001.
Yeah, 1993 and 2001. All things happened before I was born. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean,
2022.
they gotta, and so I'm sitting here trying to, figure it all out. And here's what he says. The only thing I can do is be my most authentic self. That's who I am, okay? I could only be me, the enemy told reporters in the lead up to Super Bowl 55. Some team has to want me. On top of that, there has to be some kind of collaboration, making sure the chemistry is a fit. So, for whatever reason, that chemistry has not been a fit. There has not been that opportunity to connect.
Did you see Rick's comment? He says maybe Pianami tells interviewers he spends his spare time as an Elvis impersonator.
But he wants a head coaching job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that only qualifies him for the Texans job.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's where you end up going to a losing team. Like you end up going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's it going to do for? Yeah, it ends up damning you one way or the other. But at least the man deserves a chance. But no, and that is where it doesn't pass the eye test. You're hiring a defensive team, hiring a defensive coordinator. It doesn't even make any sense. And, of course, Kansas City will keep bringing him back. And it's not like the enemy is, somebody on the panel here said they need a younger guy. He's 51.
Yeah.
The motherfucker's been sitting here waiting forever. He's like the chuck roast in the goddamn pot and making a soup, and you're simmering it and he's been simmering for 3 years.
Well, and
even
if he's not calling the plays, he has a hand in the offense. So why is an organization would you not look back and say, okay, look at the Chiefs offense, look at the innovations that they've had. Like some of the stuff the Chiefs have been doing with Mahomes is stuff that we haven't really seen in the NFL. So why not take a chance and say, hey, even if you weren't calling plays, come and bring your offense. Come and see if you can kind of, get some of the similar things out of this offense here, in whatever city it is. But if you go to a team like the Texans, you might as well just stay in Kansas City because, what are you going to get out of Davis Mills? Not that Davis Mills isn't going to be a good quarterback. We don't know. But there are situations that fit him. Jacksonville, as bad as they are, the situation fits him. Continue to build around, like I said, around the young quarterback and try to get the strengths out of him. It does not make sense at all.
But it seems like such a scattershot approach how they hire these guys. And then when it doesn't pan out and these teams keep losing over and over, they become more and more the lock of the league. And you have to turn around so many things to stop bleeding. Do you know how long it's going to take the Jaguars to stop bleeding after the whole ridiculous episode with Urban Meyer? Did you realize how that, it's a clown show. That guy was no more qualified to coach in the professional ranks. Enemy was more qualified because he's been with the athletes.
Well,
I don't know what they wanted to put butts in the seat.
You know what they're going to do now, right? They're going to overcompensate. So they went out and took a chance on a college guy.
Now they're going to be safe.
Now they're going to go out and they're going to get a X-time NFL coach like
Romeo Crennel.
Yeah,
right?
Romeo Crennel and try to go the safe route. And then the next year, when that fails, they'll go back to college and they'll go back to the young guy.
And by
it's
the time
just a continuous cycle.
And for Trevor Lawrence,
they'll get Chip Kelly.
Yeah, but they'll be Trevor Lawrence will be on his way and out of Jacksonville. But you just hate to see. And I don't really think I watched him in college at Clemson. I never thought that he was the real deal. I'm not going to say that he'll never do it because he was playing for a beast of an asshole Urban Meyer is one of the reasons why I never really talked about Ohio State football. I didn't like him. I didn't like his approach. And it quite honestly is a stacked deck in college football, as we all know. And, you know, it has become a glamour thing with the SEC. And, you know, now they've got the rivalry back with Ohio State and Michigan. La-di-da, la-di-da. It doesn't make any difference to me. Ryan Day has been coaching Ohio State, and we'll see how, you know, all of their recruiting goes.
Hey, by the
quite
way,
honest-
Jacksonville, go Evan Neal at number 1, please. Please.
But,
Don't go KT. Don't go Aiden Hutchinson. Evan Neal, be smart.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to take a
They
lot
need
more than one
offensive
guy.
line help. They need a lot of offensive line help down there.
Now, here's a disease that's catching. All right.
Uh-oh.
Headline: Mary Kay Cabbagehead.
He doesn't
must
mean
explore-
Amsterdam's genital warts.
Browns must explore trades for big name quarterbacks such as Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Russell Wilson. By the way, the 49ers have made it publicly known that they're going to dump Garoppolo no matter what happens this weekend.
Watch him win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this. His own team is not even sold on him. They're ready to move on to the guy Trey Lance. They're willing to move on to. So, you know, we have to explore, you know, trades for the big name quarterbacks. And it starts with Aaron Rodgers. He's won one fucking Super Bowl. Give me a break. He's 1-4 in NFC championships.
But he's the king of the regular season, and apparently that's all that these idiots
That's all that
care
matters because he's got a name, you see.
about. Never mind that, you know.
He's
Yeah,
going
well-
to Denver anyway. It's
Well,
already.
and fine, let him go to Denver. I mean, let him go skiing in the off season. Whatever the fuck he wants to do. It's good with me. But you see,
He's
this
going to
disease,
have his medical marijuana card and fucking
He's already a hippie.
emblazoned gold.
this whole disease, this Mary Kay Cabbagehead disease, is bad as Omicron. I mean, it's easy to catch. Listen to this article. The Ravens should consider trading Lamar Jackson. No,
I saw a mock draft with them taking Matt Corral,
I mean,
which is a quarterback, by the way.
and here's the reason why. The greatest young quarterbacks tend to get to the Super Bowl in the first 4 seasons as a starter. Let's take a look at some of those guys. Tom Brady, okay? And, you know, it's like, all right, so there's
Russell
a Jesus
Wilson did
Christ.
it.
There's a Jesus Christ who you know, you can't kill because he will be resurrected. Then, yeah, he won in his first season as a starter, okay? That was his second season overall. Ben Roethlisberger, his second season, got a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, his third season, and never again. Russell Wilson, his second season, Patrick Mahomes, his second season. Now, nobody's going to question.
Wait a minute. He had to, Aaron Rodgers had to sit for 3 years.
That's
so
right.
That was actually his like 6th year or something. Or
That's
5th
right.
year?
His third season as a starter. And that was his 6th season because he was sitting behind Brett Favre. So
So he was actually at 29.
So talking about the ultimate analytic. So the greatest young quarterbacks tend to get to the Super Bowl within the first season, 4 seasons. There's been 55 fucking Super Bowls. How many of them were delivered by people in the first 4 seasons as starter? It's bullshit. I remember, it's funny, I remember Jim Plunkett winning. I remember all kinds of people winning the Super Bowl.
Montana, I think, was one that did that. Maybe Terry Bradshaw. Stabler was no spring chicken when the Raiders won their first.
And look what he's doing. He's saying Eli Manning in his 4th season, Jimmy Garoppolo in his 3rd season as a starter, which was his 6th season. So this is what makes these quarterbacks fucking great. And there were outliers to the trend were Drew Brees and Peyton Manning. Brees, of course, had problems injury-wise with the Chargers and then 15 years with the Saints. And he didn't win his Super Bowl until his 9th overall season. And Manning was 0-3 before finally winning his first playoff game. He eventually won his first Super Bowl after 9 seasons. Okay? So who among the young crop of quarterbacks actually qualifies in this brain-damaged analysis that this guy is writing? And that ropes in Bill's Josh Allen, okay? And I think we can all say that Josh Allen, it can be he's a real dangerous motherfucker. You know what he is? He's John Elway. That's what the fuck he is. He's a guy with a big cannon arm who's big, who could break tackles, except he runs better than Elway and has good wide receivers. Yeah.
He's more accurate.
That's right.
Now
and
for the guy you said couldn't hit the broadside of a fucking barn from 2
That's
feet
right.
away, he's the most accurate.
Well, obviously, they don't have GPS systems in Wyoming. I don't know what to make of it. But yeah, he definitely can put the ball on the money now. There ain't no question about that. So I'm not even going to argue Josh Allen. He's legit. Too legit to quit. It also brings in Joe Burrow, who has achieved at least a similar feat this season. Now he's changing the analytics. He plays for a chance at the Super Bowl this weekend. Stop it. Just stop it. He says Burrow at this point looks like a pretty safe bet for an extension after. What do you mean a safe bet? Come on. I could see Mike Brown saying, no, we're not going to give you that extension. We're just going to keep on franchising you and piss you off. There are certainly other young quarterbacks, this author writes, Justin Herbert or Mac Jones, who could enter this conversation over the next few years. I don't think so. They aren't there yet. All right. So why would you want, as he still hasn't gotten to why you would want to trade Lamar Jackson. He says the quarterback class of 2018, we know who they were. Josh Allen was one of them. Josh Rosen. Sorry, Brian.
Rosenstein.
Sam Darnold. We know. I'm sorry. And so there were the other 2 quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, who, of course, he jumps on the I hate Baker bandwagon. He's just an average quarterback. And then he finally gets to Lamar Jackson, who's been a phenomenal talent for the Ravens, he says. He was MVP in 2019. He's taken the team to the playoffs 3 of his first 4 seasons. He won a playoff game in 2020. He was injured in 2021, though, and only ended up playing in 12 games. And by the way, Lamar Jackson's passed on the Pro Bowl because he's still hurt. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Not that he should play in the Pro Bowl. Not that anybody should be playing in the Pro Bowl. Jackson, he says, unlike Mayfield, is a star. When he's on, he's absolutely in the discussion of being a top 10 quarterback in the league. But even at his best, as he was in 2019, he wasn't able to carry his team when it mattered most against the best competition. So he breaks down this whole thing and comes to the conclusion that, they can live with Tyler Huntley. And they don't have to re-sign him. Can you imagine what the Ravens fan base would do if they passed and said, no, we're not going to re-up Lamar Jackson? Unbelievable. Here's a question before I go off here. Rubber City Breaks asks, wanted to ask you, if Dorsey doesn't hire Kitchens and he's still the GM, where are the Browns today? Well, it was one of those things where once Haslam changed his mind about analytics or decided to side with the analytics guys, Dorsey was a done deal. where would we be? You'd have hits and misses because Dorsey prone to big swings and misses. It's kind of like a guy who hits home runs. He doesn't hit singles or doubles. He just bangs them over the wall, but he might only hit a 225 or a 230 during the season. He's that
Rob
kind of
Deere.
guy.
Rob Deere.
I'm sorry.
Rob
I
Deere.
didn't. Every time I say
the old-
something.
The
Go ahead.
the Milwaukee Brewers' old outfielder, Rob Deere.
Rob Deere, yeah. And or
One
King,
for 18, but that one was a grand slam.
Kong Kingman, yeah. Same thing. But where would we be if Dorsey was still here? You know, I think that there would be more tendency to push toward big name star guys.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when he hit good on players, but he whiffed on people a little bit lower down in the draft. And so the other thing about Dorsey, he's a great self-promoter, kind of like Hugh Jackson, which is really part of the whole Browns. You couldn't possibly, in a real world, have Hugh Jackson and Dorsey teamed together because both of them walk on water and they're never wrong. So it's a hard question to answer, Rubber City. I don't know, but I know that it wasn't going to last for long just because the egos weren't going to allow it, and Haslam was coerced by those around him. That it was analytics. You know, when he saw the thing go down the crapper with Kitchens, my word. At that point, he was ready to jump on analytics full bore because it's like, you know, you hire a coach who's never done anything. And can you imagine if you were Eric Bieniemy and Freddie Kitchens even had the shot? I mean, it just, it's bad. So at any rate, it's 7:03 and time for me to get out of here. Cavaliers don't play again until Sunday. So you can take a break, but you got lots to watch this weekend. Before we go, Derek, who's going to win this weekend?
Give me the 49ers in a surprise. And then give me, I don't want either of these teams to win, but give me Kansas City. I think we get a rematch of the Niners and KC from a couple of years ago.
All right, Brian?
I got to ride with the kid. I'm pulling for the Bengals. I'd like to see them win.
All right. And in the other game, 49ers and Rams?
Oh, I definitely want the Rams to win. Hence my let's go Rams.
All right. All right. And Tony?
I think it's going to be Chiefs and Rams.
Yeah. Well, the only question about the Rams is always going to be Matthew Stafford, whether he can play up to the moment. He sure did in the last game, and he threw a couple of balls that were right on the money at clutch time, which will serve him well in this big game. But the Chiefs are going to demolish the Bengals. They're going to demolish them.
Where's the Rams 49ers game at?
It's in
It is
LA.
at SoFi Stadium. in
That's
LA.
SoFi.
Yeah. And SoFi, I'm not sure, is home to anybody. It's an odd stadium.
Did you see they limited
It's
the
the home of
tickets?
the Super Bowl. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Did you see they limited the tickets for 49ers fans because they haven't been able to get a ton of Rams fans?
Yeah, it's a funny...
And $500 for parking. Enjoy that.
It's a funky situation to be sure. But I think the Rams will beat the 49ers, and I believe the Chiefs will beat the Bengals. And I think that the Chiefs will win the Super Bowl, and that's how I think it goes down. That could all change in one play. Wrong person goes down.
I'd like to see the Niners win the Super Bowl just for that Jimmy G.
Yeah,
situation.
for the slight. Yeah. Yeah, but why let the organization have that and and to have Garoppolo then just discarded. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. We'll be back again come Monday. We'll be talking about what happened on the weekend in the football games and any breaking news with the Cavaliers, the Browns. Thanks for tuning in. And until Monday, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Enjoy the replay, Key.